Hello everyone, my name's Spinzin and we are here today at Full Compass to talk to you about the Play Differently Model 1 mixer. The Model 1 mixer is a 100% analog DJ mixer designed by Andy Rigby-Jones and Richie Houghton. The idea behind the Model 1 mixer was to take studio quality circuitry and components and have a no expenses spared mixer created so that people can enjoy the music the way it was meant to be heard, and DJs could feel the freedom to play the way they felt like playing. The whole idea behind Play Differently is that we are all different, we all experience music differently, and we all perform differently. I'm going to walk you through the control area here, then go over some of the more specific tech specs. Starting off on the left, we have our two aux return channels. These are two simple inputs giving you a gain and a level control, as well as a low cut at 320 Hz, 6 dB per octave. The idea for that being that you can remove some of the sub bass if you have a reverb or a delay coming into that channel. But you can as well connect external drum machines, synthesizers, any audio source into those channels. One of the cool features of the Model 1 is you can run both of these return channels by selecting the Return 1, 2 to Master Filter button. You can run them through the master filter, meaning while you're filtering your tracks, you can also filter your effects returns. As we move our way down, we have the master filter, which gives you independent low and high pass filters with a resonance control on the high pass filter. We have here the master filter on-off switch. One thing to note, the mixer on the inside is completely balanced. All the circuits are balanced, sort of circuit topology you only find in high-end studio consoles. And because of that, we're able to employ zero crossing detection, meaning that when you hit any of these buttons and you reroute the audio on the inside, you don't actually hear any clicks, pops, or any sort of sound disturbances. Something which in analog is actually really difficult to do. So we're going to move over here. We now have the mixing control area, and this is perhaps the most interesting bit of the Model 1 mixer. We've gone ahead and gotten rid of the standard 3-band EQ found on most DJ mixers and replaced it with independent low and high pass filters on every channel. Now, what is the thinking behind that? With a standard 3-band EQ, the frequency at which these EQ points are is set at the factory. It's fixed, meaning your low end is at 80 Hz, for example, your mid-range knob is at 1 kHz, and your high end is maybe at 10 kHz. But that can't be changed by you, the performer. The Model 1 replaces that with filters, which allows you to really dial in what frequencies you want to let into the mix or out. So I'm going to give you a quick auditory example of how that sounds. So you see there, when I'm turning the high pass filter, for example, I'm not just turning the bass on and off, I'm actually selecting how much of the bass I want to bring in and out, what frequencies I want to let in or out. And the same goes with the low pass filter, where I'm choosing how much of the high end I'm removing. We also added a single semi-parametric EQ, we call it the Sculpt EQ, and what that does is it allows you to choose what frequency the EQ point is at. So it can be either a high, a mid, or a low. The idea being that you use the filters to mix your 3-4 records at a time, and then use the parametric EQ, or the Sculpt, to find that one element that you either want to accentuate or pull out. I'm going to give you a quick auditory example of how that works. Now on top of the independent low and high pass filters, we also have the filter button. So just to be clear, the channel filters are always on but when you're in the flat position, is truly flat. You're not losing anything on the edges. When you engage the filter button, you're routing that channel through the master filter. The idea behind that is if you have 3, 4 records on at a time, instead of having to turn all the knobs at once, you can just turn one knob and remove the low end or highs or filter the audio any way you like. Now, as we move our way down the mixer here, we come into one of the unique features of the Model 1 mixer, which is the independent dual cue buses. What that means is 2 DJs can play back to back, and instead of having to wait to use the headphones to cue up the next record, they can actually connect to the 2 cues, QA and QB, independently and select 2 records at a different channel at the same time. We found actually that these back-to-back sets, because of this, have become more collaborative sets. There's no more needing to wait to listen to the cues. We have here our 6 60mm studio-grade TKD faders, custom made for the Model 1. And then as we move our way to the right here, we've got a record out on an 1/8" stereo mini jack right here in the front, making it really easy for DJs to come in, at the venue and just plug your recorder in. No more needing to fish on the back area for the record out. We've got our LED meters, Master 1, Master 2. As we work our way around, you'll notice there's a lot of little details that this mixer was made by a DJ for DJs. For example, the Master 1 and Master 2 knobs are recessed. Ideally, in a set, you're not really reaching for the master throughout the night, so it's out of the way. We have a 3-band EQ on the master with an EQ on-off switch, once again employing the zero crossing detection, meaning that you can use it as a performance tool to turn on and off. I'm going to give you a quick example of what that sounds like. As you can see, as I'm engaging and disengaging the EQ, you don't hear any auditory disturbances. We move our way down here. We have our booth output with, once again, a little detail that was made by a DJ. We have here high and low pass shelving EQs just for the booth, meaning that you can tailor the sound of the booth for the way you want it to sound as you're performing without having to go and find an engineer or find a technician to change that. And as we move our way down here on the right, we have our QA volume control with our source mix knob. This allows you to mix between the channel we've selected, if it's all the way to the left, and then as I turn to the right, I bring in what's on the master, allowing me to hear both the cue and what's on the master in my headphones. Now, QA and QB do work slightly differently. QA is auto-canceling, meaning you choose one record at a time or one channel, and then you use the mix knob if you want to hear what's on the master. QB works slightly differently, where you have the ability to choose more than one channel at a time. The reason for that is that QB also doubles as a third effect send. So if you're playing by yourself, you're able to send whatever you select on QB either out the headphone jack into an effects unit or a sampler, for example, or it also shows up on our DSub output, which I'll get into in a little bit. Speaking of effect sends, we also have 2 auxiliary sends on every channel, which can be used to send the audio to reverb units, delay units, effects units, Ableton, any sort of mixing units or effects units. Going into a little bit more about the detail of the inside, the Model 1 mixer, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, has fully balanced circuitry. That is technology only found in high-end recording consoles. And because of that, we've included our DSub DB25 connectors. These allow for 4 stereo channels of audio, all fully balanced. Think of it as 8 XLR jacks crumped down into a little mini connector, which allows me to connect not only fully balanced, but securely by screwing in to external sound sources, whether it be an audio interface or a modular rig or any other balanced audio source. All the channels can come in on the RCA inputs, and then simply by pushing the line DSub switch, we're able to switch between the DSub input and the RCA input. We have 3 state-of-the-art phono preamps, which are designed from the ground up to deliver equal gain to line level. So one of the complaints that we've heard of the industry was that people playing vinyl felt like the mixers that are available were not giving enough gain to the vinyl. So we've redesigned the phono preamps on channels 3, 4, and 5 to give vinyl lots of gain. The idea behind it being it doesn't matter if you're using a CD player, a media player, a turntable, or a laptop. Everyone is going to be on the same playing field and everyone's going to sound amazing. There's a little feature on the Model 1 mixer that perhaps we made a little bit small, but we also did it on purpose, and that's the drive knob, which is found on all of the channels here. The drive knob emulates what it sounds like when you overdrive a preamp to a mixing desk. Now, why would you want to do that? The idea behind it is it brings out the harmonics of the audio by introducing subtle distortion. I like to call it instant mastering. I use it a lot in situations where I have a record that I want to play, but it just doesn't have the beefiness or chunkiness to it that perhaps some of the other records I'm playing at the moment. So how about I just give you guys a little auditory example as to how it sounds. You're going to see as I turn the knob, it will start to light up a little bit. It does react to the audio, giving you an indication of how hard you're hitting the drive circuit. And then as I crank it all the way up, it just stays up, so you can know that you're fully in overdrive mode. So let's get an auditory example here. So you could see there at the beginning, perhaps not noticeable to everyone. Then as I turn it up a little bit more, you start to hear that the record just starts to sound a little bit thicker, a little bit fatter. And then at the end there, you can crank it all the way if you really want to distort the signal and get that dirty Berghain Berlin techno grunge. So that's just a little bit about the Model 1 mixer. I've gone over all of the controls and the layout. And I'm going to be showing you how I play in the next video, so be sure to check that out. But if you have any more questions or you're interested in finding out more, head on over to fullcompass.com or contact your Full Compass sales pro today.